Hi guys, it's Dr. Crystal Maxwell here, and I've gotten a lot of questions about exactly what is insulin resistance, and can I go into that a little bit more detail? Sure. Okay. So we always think about insulin as it relates to prediabetes and diabetes, and that's a very important function, but that's not its only function. Okay. So insulin is secreted from the pancreas. It's a hormone, and it is secreted to control how much glucose is floating around in the bloodstream. And it knows that too much glucose in the bloodstream is toxic. That is prediabetes and diabetes, and it doesn't want the body to stay in a toxic state. So anytime that we eat or drink anything, it's broken down into glucose. A certain level of glucose is good. Our organs need it. Our brain needs it. All of our body needs glucose as an energy fuel source. But when it's too much and all of our organs have what they need, insulin is responsible for getting the glucose levels back stabilized. Okay. And what insulin will do is it will try to store it in the body in a healthy state of glycogen. Okay, that's a healthy storage form for glucose. It can easily be broken down when energy is needed. And so that's what insulin wants to do. Where does it want to store that? There are two big storage places in the body for glycogen, and that is in the muscles and in the liver. Okay, so what does that look like, for example? So let's talk about the liver. Okay, we can think about the liver in terms of like being a hotel. So insulin will come and knock on hotel liver's door and say, hey, I've got extra glucose. Can it come and stay at your hotel? The liver knows it doesn't want to have a toxic body either, right? And so it will say, sure, if there's room in hotel liver. Okay? So as long as there's space for the liver to be able to store this glucose in a healthy state of glycogen, it's definitely going to do that. But what happens if there's a lot of glycogen already there and nobody's checked out of the hotel? Okay? The liver may say, I don't have room in my hotel. So then insulin's got to figure out, okay, what do I do? What's plan B? One plan could be that it just continues just trying to talk to the liver and say, hey, come on, please, please, please. And it might. But oftentimes it has to go and recruit more insulin to try to get the job done. Okay, so just kind of like our kids. If one kid asks, hey, can I do such and such? You're more inclined to possibly say no. But if a group of kids, the friends, the cousins, come and smile in your face and please, 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 the group may outwin just one kid coming along, right? Same kind of principle concept. It takes more to get the job done. That same simple metabolic process that used to be smaller insulin demand to get done is now taking more insulin to get that job done. But what if the liver still says, okay, I can take a few, but I can't take them all? Insulin still has to figure out, what do I do with this other glucose? So if it can't store it in a healthy state of glycogen, either in the liver or in muscle, it will then begin storing glucose around the body as, guess what? Fat. Okay, so fat that you can cosmetically see that you're gaining weight. Okay, fat could also be visceral fat, particularly in the abdominal area. We tend to store that as visceral fat, which is dangerous fat. It may not look nice and we may not be happy about the way that it looks, but visceral fat is actually metabolically active. It's secreting cytokines and inflammatory markers that are disruptive to the body. Okay, so gaining weight, gaining fat specifically, not just gaining weight, but gaining fat specifically, is not just a cosmetic or I don't like how I feel thing. It actually is metabolically affecting you as well, because it will also stimulate things that happen with cravings and us not feeling well. Okay, so that is a lot more dangerous than just us simply thinking about how we look. All right, so when your body is in a more fat storage hormone, because essentially most things that you're putting into your body when insulin resistance is happening is being stored as fat instead of a healthy state of usable energy, glycogen. Okay. Um, so you can think of insulin as really a fat storage hormone. So where else can it store fat? If you've heard the term fatty liver, if it can't store it inside the liver in a healthy state of glycogen, it could begin storing it around the liver, and you have fatty liver. Okay. So these are metabolic things, disruption things that are happening to you when your body's in the state of insulin resistance. So again, you may have more cravings. You may not feel well. Your joints may ache when your body's in a more inflamed state. Um, you may not feel quite as well. These hormones, there are lots of different hormones that are controlling this metabolic process. Insulin is not the only one. Insulin is also talking to cortisol. Cortisol is also talking to norepinephrine and epinephrine. And for women, a lot of times, estrogen is really good friends with insulin. And so when estrogen begins to be wacky or insulin begins to be wacky, the other one can begin to be wacky, and we just don't feel well. So our body really is controlled by hormones. And so when we're trying to correct insulin resistance and we're trying to get the body to be more insulin sensitive, that is what we're talking about. Insulin resistance, our blood vessel gets more stiff, so our blood pressures raise. Cholesterol can become elevated. These are things that increases the risk of what? Heart disease, cardiovascular disease, strokes, heart attacks, peripheral vascular disease. You also, when we're talking about that, you also may just feel like anything that I eat, whether it's healthy or not, like I'm still gaining weight. Why am I still gaining weight and I'm eating salads all day? Because your body's in a fat storage mode. So even when you're eating kale and cauliflower and carrots and all the green stuff and all the vegetables and doing the fruit, it's still being stored more so as fat instead of a healthy, usable energy like glycogen. Where else does the body store fat? Muscle. Okay, so it wants to store it as glycogen inside of our muscles, but if it's not able to do that because there's dysregulation, you could be storing fat inside of your muscles. So even when you're trying to exercise and get more toned or more definition, that could be stalling your process because you are storing your energy that you have more as fat. And fat doesn't easily burn, okay? So there's so many different facets to what happens and what's being directed in the body when it comes to insulin resistance. And so I hope that this gives a little bit more clarity about what insulin resistance is, how it's affecting your body, how it's disrupting how you maybe feel, how you may be gaining weight, why you're being more tired, why your blood pressure is starting to creep up, why your cholesterol numbers are starting to creep up. All of those things we can relate back for a lot of people to insulin resistance. So trying to get that corrected. And sometimes there are lifestyle changes that can be done to improve it without having to do anything else. But when your body is in a fat storage mode, again, sometimes you're just storing those, even those healthy things that you're eating in a not healthy way. And so sometimes nutrition and exercise alone aren't sufficient, and you need something else to help boost the system to begin regulating more normally. There are certain supplements that can be a part of the plan, but it's very important that you are particularly making sure, do I have insulin resistance? Is that what is coming into play that is disrupting things of me trying to make some improvements? If you don't know the answer to that question and you suspect that it is, it's important to talk with your doctor so that you can get that underlying issue addressed so that your body can be metabolically improved and taken out of fat stored. All right, so I hope that shed some light to insulin resistance. And if you found some clarity with that and it's making a little bit more sense, drop me a few comments and share it with a friend.